Hello, hello, hello. Crafty Chris here again to make some Easter cards. Easter is this weekend and I'm a little late getting started on my Easter festivities, but I thought today I'd make some cards. So I have two double pieces of paper. These are not scraps, obviously. They're full sheets from a collection that I did have. And I'm going to make 4 Easter cards out of this. So the first thing I want to do is I want to cut these into backgrounds. So my cards are A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And this doesn't have a very interesting strip, so I'm not going to worry about cutting right through that. So I'm going to make 4 1/4. Do I want to make 4 1/4? I'm going to make 4-inch strips, and that way there's a 1/4 inch around on one set. And I think I'm going to make them top loading. I don't know. 5 1/2, so that's 8. I need that to be 8. Whoops, wrong thing here. 8. So that's 11. So I'm going to have a top loading one. So my pieces are all going. Oh, wait a minute. I'm just going to have these as mats. Let me start that again. So we got 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 as our base. I did a 4-inch width cut, and now I'm going to do a 5 1/4 inch length cut. So that's going to be our mat that goes on our card. And I can get another one out of here. So 5 1/4. So these are now measuring 4 by 5 1/4, which will give us that 1/8 inch border around them. So I want 2 to be eggs, and I want 2 to be the back side, which I'll show you in a moment. So here we go with 4. This time I want it to be the full length, so we're going to do 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it's going to cover the whole card. Okay, and I'll do that again. And so I have some little bits and pieces to play with if I want to work a couple of other cards. So I've got 2 that have an 1/8 of an inch border and 2 that are going to be the full size of the card. So short, short, full, full. The other thing I'm going to do is take my 2 pieces of blocks, and I'm going to fussy cut one and raise it on top of the other. There's a word for that, but it escapes my brain at the moment. I'm sure you're saying it to yourself as you see me do the cards. So I am going to use things that will pop nicely and fussy cut nicely. So I like this bunny. I like this egg hunt. I like this, and I like the egg here. So we're just going to take those off both of the sheets. All right, so let's just move these out of the way. We'll have them for adding details later. And we're going to cut that again. So now we come to the fussy cutting part. Let's get our pieces together here. That's going to go there. So what I mean by fussy cutting, so I am going to have first I'll do the fussy cutting. So I'm not keeping this as a full piece that's going down on a card, but I am going to put it over top of either the stripe or the plain, which is the larger card, which is this one here. So I'm going to do some trimming, but first I'm going to fussy cut all around this. And I'd like to keep the celebrate sign. So I'm just going to leave a little border all the way around everything. Just so it has a little bit of space from the edge of the paper. A little border around the bunny. There we go. That's one. Now I'm going to go in and just and there we go. There's number one. Now that's going to stick on top of this one to give it a 3D effect. So I'm going to grab my pop dots. And so I am going to take this and I'm going to pop dot that with, on here, with 1 millimeter pop strips. Actually, cut that down a bit. There we go. Put a little up there and a piece there. So this is the 1 millimeter pop dot. And I'm going to put that down there so it just raises it up just a tiny bit. All right. Then I'm going to trim this around. Following the line. There we go. And this is going to get popped with the 2 millimeter pop dots. And so we're going to put that there. You could use less pop dot if you wanted, but I have tons of it and it makes it nice and strong when you have multiples. And you want everything to sort of be able to stick up. There we go. All right. And get all the pop dots off of that. Okay, just make sure your pop dots aren't showing anywhere. I got some hanging over here. There we go. And then you're going to line those up. Whoops! Don't let it fall down if you can avoid it. You're going to line that up so that it goes across like that. So you have two different layers of pop dots and bunnies. And now I am going to go around the bunnies and trim down with another layer. And the reason that I do this rather than just doing one and sticking it on is because I don't want there to be pattern underneath and visible from the background, so it looks like it's a separate entity sitting on top of the paper. Otherwise you could just cut it out once and jam it down on the paper, but you would see the pattern underneath poking through. Okay, and just trim that off. Okay, now this is going to be too long. Let me get my, yeah, so this is going to be a bit too long, so I am going to cut around this bunny, or this egg rather. Okay, there we go, and that's going to fit on perfectly. Get my adhesive, stick that down. Okay, there we go. And I want him to be close to the bottom because we have to have room for the Easter sign. So he's going to go in there. And then Easter, we're going to trim up. Okay, there we go. And we're going to put him on like that. Now this little piece, I'm going to trim around. Here. Alrighty. So we have this little piece here. And this is going to go on the inside of the card, so let me get a card base here. So I cut down some 5 by 7 or 8.5 by 11 cardstock into cards, and I'm just pulling out a card base that goes along with the colors that we have. See if I like that. Oh, this is the large one, so we don't even have to worry about that. So I'm going to take one of my card bases that's kind of neutral. There we go. And oops. We're going to glue this down. On the outside of the card base. Lining it up with the edges. All right. And then on the inside, I'm going to have my sentiment, and I'm going to put this little bit of egg beside my sentiment. So that's the first card that's done. Okay. Second card. Second card, we are going to use the background. Let's see. Okay, so our background is going to go centered. And make sure that you have your music and your words going in the right direction if there's any of that going on. I'm going to center this in the middle, more or less. Okay, now I want to delineate this from the background because I can see that it's quite light. So I am going to pull out a brown pen, and I'm just going to do a stitch line. And it just gives you a bit of an eye barrier for your base of your card. Okay, and then we do the same thing we did with the last bunny, or the last card. Can't separate the words on this one because the words cross over the image of the bunny in the basket, so we're going to keep everything together. Okay, and so our bunny is ready to be stuck on, but I'm just going to round this a tiny bit because bunny's ears aren't as pointed as that. And we're going to put our 2mm on the bottom of this. And going up the center. There we go. And just a couple little pieces here to give some support. And I'm just going to cut this back a little bit because it's a tiny bit too long. There we go. Okay. And we line that up. And there you go. And this is a smaller card, so we want to get some of the colors that are in there. Let's see. on in the background. That looks kind of nice. I like that. And this card is open so that it's a top fold. And let's stick it down on there. And make sure my card is folded nicely. There we go. And there's card number 2. And then because it's dark on the inside, I would just put a little white piece of paper with my sentiment on it. So that's card number 2. Card number 3 is this little guy here. And we're going to just cut him out and put him on top of there. And you know what? I think I'm going to put this on with a little bit of the 1mm tape. There we go. And you know what? I'm going to take the welcome sign. As well. All right, I'm noticing I have a little bit of blue across the top there, so I'm just going to quickly trim that off. Just a smidge. There we go. All right. So maybe I'll take a tiny bit more of this off there. How wide your margins are on your fussy cutting depends on how you like it. There's no steadfast rule about how thick it should be, but it's better always to start thicker, and then you can always trim back afterwards, as I just did. Okay. All right, there we go. So we are going to use, on these 2 pieces, we are going to use 1mm, and on the welcome sign, which is this piece here, just going to trim that a little better. We're going to use 2mm. So let's put that one down first, and then we can mess with the others underneath. There we go. So we are going to put this one right over top of the welcome sign. It's already there. There we go. Then we're going to put 1mm on this little guy, and I think I'm going to have to do it in small pieces because he's a bit tiny. There we go. So all the scraps that I have of the Easter paper that I'm not using today will go in my Easter container and be used for other times. I didn't have much in the way of Easter because I had used it all up, so that's why we weren't working with scraps today. So look at that. It's kind of neat. It has 2 different levels there. And we're going to put the 1 millimeter on this as well. And this has a straight edge, which can sometimes be a blessing and sometimes can be a pain in the neck, because lining it up can be a challenge. Let's see, cut this piece in half. As you can see, I get all stuck up with everything here. It's going to go in there just to keep it. This little piece is just going to give a little bit of support there. Okay. All right, now we have to line this up with the edge. There we go. And so when you look at it, it just has a little bit more dimension. You can make it more, you could pop this up even more if you wanted to, and put like a 3 millimeters and pop it up. I'm going to see if I can try to do that. I'm going to put another layer. It's ripping a little, but that's all right because you're not going to see that. Okay, I'm going to put one more layer just to give it a little bit more height. There we go. And it's fun to play with different heights of layering in your popped up cards. There we go. I think this will make it just that much better. There we go. Yeah, that pops it up quite a bit, so you can really see that welcome spring. And you still have shadowing happening around the other edges. All right, so we are going to put this on this card, and we are going to have a sideways card, but again, the background is pulling away. So I should have probably done this before I started, but that's okay. I can do it now. And the reason I'm not using a black pen is because it would be too stark. The dark brown seems to just be enough, but not too much. This gives it a little bit more oomph. There we are. Put some adhesive on there. And I'm going to kind of center it in this side. Well, maybe I should give it about a 1/2 inch space there. There we go. And there's our cute little top for a card. Now let's pick a base. This one I think I'm covering, so I'm going to use a color that I can write on. There we go. So that's going to go on top of that. And then I can write my sentiment on the inside because the paper is a light color. Make sure my adhesive is all right. Just load that right on top of the card. Line it all up. And there you have your card. So that's card number 3, and we have one more card left. And this one is with the egg. And I'm just going to trim this a little better. I've got some hanging over from my trim, so let's get that cleaned up a bit. There we go. So that's the base. Not worried about any of the white stuff on this piece because it's sitting on top. And I'm going to take the egg as one piece and then the outer ring as a second piece. Now these cards don't have any bling on them yet, and they don't have any, like some of them have words. Well, those guys all have words. Yeah, so this one is going to need a sentiment on the outside. And I'm realizing it's going to be tricky for me to get in on the inside of this without wrecking the egg. So I am going to have these as like parentheses. There we go. There's our egg. And now I'm going to trim these. So they can be put on separately. There we go. So there's those two bits. Alrighty, so now I'm going to do a double layer of pop dots or of 2mm because I have small pop dots for this that fit this size of project, but they are already 2mm, so I want the egg to really pop off the top. So I'm going to double up, and all I do is I kind of look at the size of my shape, and I just fold the two pieces over and cut. And then it's already popped and I don't have to mess with it. So that's going to go down the center. There we go. And then I have a piece here that's already got partial. Oop, oop. And I'm going to fold this guy. There we go. And put him, oh, sticky stuff on that side, and I need another little piece for the other side. Maybe like that. Alright, so our egg is ready to go down on our paper. Just make sure you're not seeing any of the pop dot. And line it up and pop it in. Whoops. There we go. So that's a nice thick pop on that one. And now I've got little pop dots for this. So they're super small, already cut, and they will work wonders. There we go. Now this one goes across the bottom. Whoop. Okay. right, and then this one goes across the top. Now the top on this one is a little bit narrow, so I'm just going to trim one of these guys in half. And I'm going to use that up here so I don't see the pop dot. It's amazing how small you can make these pop dots and they still work. Okay, and I just need one more. And this goes across the top. Like so. Okay, and there you have your pop dotted three-dimensional egg. And I think what I want to do is I'm going to corner round this piece, and I just don't know which corner rounders to use. Okay, I think I'm going to inverse round it. I'm going to take the corners, put it in my inverse rounder. Alright, gives it a little bit of some style to it. I'll show you in a moment. And we're going to stick that down. Now I need room for a sentiment, so I'm going to leave a little bit of space there. So in that area is where I'm going to put my sentiment. Make sure that's properly spaced. And we're going to pick a card for this one. So I have two choices actually. So we could use this lighter color, or we could use the darker color. Interesting. Lighter color, darker color. I don't know which one I like better. I think I'll stick with the lighter one. It's kind of pastel-y like the colors. There we go. Pre-cutting card bases is really a huge time saver. So you might consider doing that. Okay. And we're lining that up within the box. Oops. Just like that. And then the sentiment will go across the bottom. So, there you have it. Your 3 Easter cards, or 4 Easter cards. Made, actually I didn't even touch this piece of paper, still got that over there. I could make 4 more. So you've used 3 pieces of paper, and you still have lots left of the other papers to create new Easter things for your next project. I will have the image with the stamps on them at the beginning of the video in post, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you found this interesting and you want to share with friends, feel free to do so. Don't forget to like my video and subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you next Thursday. Bye now.